How you doing? Duff here. I have now received my repaired and upgraded instrument cluster from Mike from SSR Fanatics, one of our fellow members. He replaced the stepper motors in the instrument cluster. He installed a new faceplate for my instruments. You see that it's now silver background instead of black. And he also suggested very wisely to paint the tips of the needles so they would not get lost on the silver background. So he did all that for me and did it very quickly and returned it to me much faster than I expected, to be honest, which was great. So anyways, now I need to put it back into the SSR. See, I have stuff all over the place in here. I'll document this sparingly because it's just the reverse of pulling everything out, although there are some different challenges in doing so. So let's get started. You know, when you set parts on, or screws on the workbench, after you get done pulling stuff out, you do so with the thought that I'll easily remember where they went, and I'm not 100% sure. So if you're going to be putting parts down and not touching them for a few days, you might want to document it somehow to prevent this scenario from happening to you. But I'm sure I'll figure it out. Okay, for those of you that forgot what a ripped apart SSR dash looks like, here it is. First thing I need to do is reconnect the wire harness to the top of the instrument cluster. That connector was tough disconnecting. Hopefully it goes in easier than it came out. Okay, right there you can see the connector. It's in place. Now I get to try to mount it. This is going to be the pain in the ass part. If you remember before, getting the two top screws out was a bitch, and I'm sure it's going to be, that's a cool blue line, it's going to be even more challenging getting it back in, so let's see how it goes. Okay, I got those in. They're only in a few turns. You know, you can't get it on much beyond that, but it feels okay. I mean, it feels like it's not going anywhere. Just have to put the two bottom screws in. Okay, so all four screws are now in. So let's turn the accessory, or let's turn the truck onto the accessory position to see what happens. Okay, we have lighting. And let's start it and see if the motor sweeps. The numbers now are bluish instead of like the greenish color they were, which is cool. Okay, so the gauges do work. Verified that. So the next part is to start putting the dash back together, which I'm debating if I want to do now or not. Just because of what the tip that I mentioned in the last video, how it's easiest to put the dash back together when the plastic is warm and sitting out in the sun. So I'll probably give it a try, and if it gives me too much trouble, I will just bag it and wait till it gets sunny. Okay, so when you're doing this, a couple things of note. You want to try to make sure that these vents are centered in the holes, so when you press the dash cover back on, they line up. I've had varying degrees of success with this, so that's one thing to look out for. I see a little blue line at the bottom of this. Hopefully it doesn't show up in the actual video. Alright, so I'm going to try to see how this goes. Not sure how much you'll get from watching this experience, except you'll see me bending the cover of the airbag to get it in. dropping the steering wheel all the way. Also, something I didn't mention earlier in my first video was, if you want to be 100% safe, you really should disconnect your battery when you're doing this, just to prevent any chance of the airbag, the passenger side airbag, accidentally deploying. I did not do that, but I recommend that you do. Using the tool helps too. Recording? I hope so. Yes. Come on. Alright, this is just showing you how to get frustrated. Alright, we've now skipped ahead to the weekend. I've had the truck sitting out in the sun, like I mentioned, to soften up the plastic and the vinyl. Of course, it's starting to drizzle a little bit, but I'm going to try to manipulate this more and see how it goes now. Okay, I got the most difficult part, the part around the airbag, back on. Took a lot of manipulation. Basically, you kind of have to work from here down, because this top piece up here, it doesn't really bend. It's when you get to the sides and the bottom is where you can actually bend the airbag cover. So, and I can manipulate this to get it smoother. And then working over to the other side, it's not hard. But yeah, I actually had to give it a shot up top. Once I gave it a shot up top, it popped it through, and it kind of lined the rest of it up. So no matter how you look at it, I would never call this procedure easy. It's a pain in the ass. So I'm going to get the driver's side back in place. Kind of like the Fonz when you do this. Okay, so you'll notice that if you have it, the top of it in right, you know, that seam along the top of the dash. Can you see that? No, not really. The seam there should be consistent when you have those snaps back in correctly. And then once you do that, it's a matter of putting in these screws that were in the bottom. You have to actually kind of hold this up to line it up, put those screws back in. 5 screws, so I'm going to be doing that next. See my cool instrument cluster. putting up pressure on this as I'm doing it. That's really the only spot where you have to put some pressure on it to get it lined up. And I didn't film it, but while I was screwing around here, I did manage to knock this center fin out of the vent, and I had to spend probably 10 minutes trying to get it back in place. It's a big pain in the ass. Okay, that's 3, 4, and 5. Okay, after this point you're in the home stretch. Put the trim pieces back on. Just make sure you line it up before you start smacking this in, since these connectors that are used, these snapping connectors aren't the most durable things. It's quite possible you can break one if you're not careful. Line it up and then you driver's side. Okay. And at this point all that's left is to put your switches back on, and again they just slide on. And you can see there's a like a cutout here. That's what actually goes around the control here. So usually you can just kind of feel where that is by turning it like this. Not doing a good job of. There we go. Okay. So there you go. It's back together. Let's just show you the end result. Oh wait, hold on. Let me see the buckling around the airbag cover. Like I said, you can kind of use your trim tool to kind of minimize that. It's a little better, but it was kind of a worthless demonstration. Okay, so here's my dash after being reassembled. And let's just start it up so you can see the new and improved instrument cluster in action. Okay, looks good. All the motors are working. So there you go. As is the case with most of my automotive projects, it's a pain in the ass. I mean, I've ripped this dash apart at least half a dozen times, and it's still a pain. No matter what you do, it's a pain. So anyone that says they can do this without it being a pain is a better mechanic than I am, and I'm not a very good one. So, but anyways, that's how you reverse the process for reinstalling a instrument cluster on the 2005 Chevy SSR. So until next time, this is Duffman signing out.